Jonathan Marsh from Transport for Greater Manchester. I'm in the strategy team, and we're working closely at the moment with Manchester and Salford City Councils on the city centre transport strategy, which I'll just spend a little bit of time talking through. Just before I do that, I just wanted to set a bit of background. In 2017, early 2017, we published our 2040 transport strategy, which is our long-term plan for how we want transport to support the growth of Greater Manchester. And currently there's these main themes that we're feeding into, quite big issues for us, and certainly are firmly in the Mayor's mind as well. And so we're just going to touch on briefly on them. So we've got the Greater Manchester Spatial Framework, which is our effectively Greater Manchester-wide land use plan, which is in development, and we're looking to go out to consultation later in the summer on that. And that, in terms of the city centre supporting growth, we have about 40,000 people that live within the core of the city centre at the moment. Plans that could double by the time we get to 2040, so the land use plan is helping to support that. We have the clean air work that we're doing. We're looking to develop a clean air plan to tackle the European directive on air quality, and the government's tasked us and other cities to look at that, so that's ongoing work. We're looking to develop a Streets for All strategy, which I'll touch on a bit with the city centre transport strategy, but is a bit more about how we look at the streets and how we particularly balance the different demands on the street, but also make them places that get that balance between movement and place. So we're creating high quality environments for people to live, work and move around in. That also links to walking and cycling agenda as well, and one of the first things the Mayor did was appoint Chris Boardman as his cycling and walking advisor. So we're looking in particular at more investment in cycling and walking infrastructure across Greater Manchester. Another key area is bus reform. So with the Bus Services Act, we're now looking at a case for what we do with potentially taking more control over the bus network. So we're looking to develop a business case for how that could work in the future, and there'll be a future consultation on that. And then there's the work around high-speed rail and Northern Powerhouse Rail, or HS3 as some people may know it. So in 2026 we'll have HS2 services arriving in Manchester. By 2033 they'll be running fully on the high-speed rail network if the infrastructure goes to plan. And then we have Northern Powerhouse Rail, which is more of that east-west connectivity across the north of England as well. And they all feed into a lot of what is going on within the city centre. So generally we have a core city centre area, but we have a city centre that's growing. There are more people living, but that area is spreading out into more further into Salford, into parts of Trafford. And we've always had a growth down the Oxford Road corridor, where the universities and hospitals are based. So we have quite a broad area in terms of the city centre we're looking at. And we're developing work around three themes. So we have this theme around promoting healthy and livable city centre, which is more about focused from a transport perspective about how people move within the city centre. And then, as I said, we've got this growing city centre. So it is about how we connect that growing city centre better into the current city centre and remove some of the severance issues that we have around large infrastructure, around the roads and the rail lines. And then the third theme is supporting the growth of the city centre and some of the agendas which I've talked about around HS2, Northern Powerhouse Rail, and in particular people coming into the city centre from the wider area. How we look at that 24/7 economy as Manchester is becoming a more vibrant centre and having more activity across the day, across the full calendar year. And then in particular for today, how through this we embrace innovation and can look to use some more innovative approaches to how people travel or use the city centre from a transport perspective. So I'd summarise that in sort of these main bullet points in terms of transport challenges, but you guys may see them as opportunities, or hopefully we'll see them as opportunities. But probably from more of a street design focus. We're keen that we do more with our streets to make them the right environments. So we know we're going to have challenges around curbside space in terms of the different demands on that, whether that is for parking, whether it's for loading, whether it's for electric vehicle charging points or other things. And can we use that space more flexibly in the future? There are initiatives that are looking at that in terms of how we better use that space. There's how we plan the roads and the streets for autonomous vehicles and connected autonomous vehicles, whether they're cars or other public transports mode, or whether they're also from a freight and servicing perspective as well. And then from a wayfinding, how people will move and travel through the city centre, in particular in the future. Obviously people are using phones and apps to help them navigate, but are there better tools that can inform people more efficiently about how they move and find their way to the right parts of the city centre? And I mentioned servicing and deliveries, in particular around how we perhaps time them in the future. So we have a lot of traffic coming into the city centre at peak times, and can we do things that enable us to more efficiently manage the flow of goods into the city centre, but also meet the requirements of businesses and residents within the city centre. And new mobility systems, so we obviously have things like Uber, Mobike, but how will they evolve in the future? And the demands that they place in city centres, and we're aware of the challenges in particular that London has around more traffic as a result of Uber and similar types of new mobility operations, because we want to move people more efficiently, but ideally with less vehicles, so we're getting the most out of the network that we have at the moment. Gemma mentioned earlier mass, and we're doing work around that and how people potentially have packages for how they travel into the city centre or around Greater Manchester. And we want to have opportunities to influence perhaps how people travel. It could be through mass, or it could be just making people more informed about the impacts of their travelling, whether it's things that can help address our challenges around air quality and tackling climate change. And then finally, how people move around the city centre. From a transport planner, that's always a challenge in terms of having the evidence that helps us make decisions about how we invest in things, whether it's services or the right infrastructure. So certainly, data, better data that can help us with that, and that's more real time, that is more up to date, certainly that provides us that opportunity to inform those decisions, but also monitor the success of our investments. So that's just a quick canter through the work we're doing around the city centre and transport strategy.